Good morning Year 7 and welcome to today's maths lesson. Let's start off with a quick starter, shall we? Can you multiply 7/8 and 3/5? Can you solve the equation 3x equals 21? Can you convert 1/8 to a decimal for me? And what is the sum of the internal angles of a pentagon? Pause the video and have a go at those questions in your light blue books now, please. Okay, let's go through the answers. So when we're multiplying fractions, we need to multiply the numerators together. 7 times 3 gives me 21. And on the bottom, I've got 8 times 5, which will give me 40. For my second question, I want to find out what x is on its own. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3, which tells me that x is equal to what, Elliot? 7, thanks very much. And finally, converting 1/8 to a decimal, I'm doing 1 divided by 8. I need to use bus stop because I can't directly convert 8 to 100. 8 into 1 goes 0, remainder 1. 8 into 10 is 1, remainder 2. 8 into 20 is 2, remainder 4. And how many 8s are there in 40, Breeze? 5, lovely. So we're looking at 0.125. For the sum of the internal angles of a pentagon, first up I'm going to ask Trenton, how many sides does a pentagon have? 5. So how many internal angles does a pentagon have, Evie? Also 5. Our equation is 180 times n minus 2 for the sum of the internal angles. In this case, n is 5, so I'm looking at 180 times 5 minus 2, which is 540 degrees. Okay, let's head into today's lesson. Here's our lesson destination for today. We're going to be looking at exam questions where we're converting between fractions and percentages and converting fractions on papers into percentages as well. To start off, what does percentage mean? Who can remind me? Jake, what does percentage mean? Percentage means out of 100. Out of 100. So I've got two fractions here. I want to convert them into something out of 100. Poppy, 20 times what gives me 100? Times by 5, very wise. Whatever I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. So I've got 35 out of 100, which is 35%. As a quick reminder, as a decimal, that's 0.35. That would be 35% divided by 100. I've got 12 over 30. I want to make this as something out of 100, but I can't just multiply 30 by a single number to get 100. So the first thing I'm going to do this time is divide by 3, which gives me something over 10. Dividing by 3, what's 12 divided by 3 for me, Robert? 4, thanks very much. I'm then going to multiply top and bottom by 10. Which gives me 40 out of 100, which is 40%. Okay, Year 7, light blue books. A, B, C, D. What is 17 over 20 written as a percentage? Work that out for me now. And the answer I'm looking for is A, 85%. A, B, C, D. What's 42 over 60 as a percentage? Pause the video, have a little think if you need. Right, let's work it out. 42 over 60, I want to make it look like something out of 100. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to divide top and bottom by 6. which gives me 7 out of 10, which if I times by 10, gives me 70 out of 100, which is 70%. Voila. And finally, what's 3/5 as a percentage? Pause the video, have a little think. And the answer I'm looking for is 60%. Okay, Year 7, can you pause the video and in your light blue books, can you have a go at these questions for me? This should take about 10 to 15 minutes. Aim to do the first column at least. As an extension, try and make your way through more of these last questions. I'll split it up. So I expect everybody to get to the bit above the red line, and then more of an extension is that bottom red line. Pause the video for 10 to 15 minutes and have a go at those questions now, please. And here are the answers. Please check your work and see how you did. Okay, so we've been looking at turning a fraction into a percentage, but we need to be able to go the other way. I'm going to do some examples and then you're going to do some examples. So in your light blue book, can you write your dark blue book, can you write the title Converting a Percentage to a Fraction and a Decimal, and then pens down, eyes on me while I do through some examples first. Okay, so I've got 33%. Percentage means out of 100. So 33% just means 33 out of 100, which as a decimal would be 0.33. Remember, we're dividing our percentage by 100 to give us the decimal. 33 divided by 100 gives me 0.33. For 22%, if I divide that by 100, I'm looking at 0.22 as my decimal. As a fraction, I'm 22 out of 100, which I can simplify to 11 out of 50. And finally, I've got 122%. To convert that into a decimal, I divide by 100, which gives me 1.22. To turn it into a fraction, I've got 122% out of 100. I can simplify that to 61 out of 50. If I wanted to write it as a mixed number, that would give me 1 and 11 over 50. Over to you, Year 7. In your dark blue books, can you pause the video for 5 minutes and have a go at converting these into a fraction and a decimal for me? Okay, let's go through the answers. So for the first one, I've got 17%. To convert it into a decimal, I need to divide by 100, which gives me 0.17. We know percentage means out of 100, so as a fraction, that's going to be 17 out of 100. My next one, I've got 42%. Let's convert that into a decimal first off. Dividing by 100 gives me 0.42. We know percent means out of 100, so as a fraction, it's 42 out of 100, which is 21 out of 50, if I simplify it. And finally, this one's a bit trickier. We're over 100% here, so divide by 100 to work out the decimal, which gives me 2.42. And then as a fraction, in exactly the same way, nothing changes just because it's over 100%. We've got 242 out of 100, which I can simplify to 121 out of 50. You could write that as 2 and 21/50ths if you so wished. Okay, Year 7, in your light blue books now, can you pause the video for 10 to 15 minutes and have a go at converting each of these percentages to a decimal and a fraction? I've written a hint at the bottom. For your decimal, you want to divide your percentage by 100, and as a fraction, you want to put the percentage as a numerator and put it over 100. Pause the video and have a go at those questions now, please. And here's your answers. Please check your work and see how you did. Okay, this is our first lesson destination for today. Can you pause the video for 5 minutes and have a go at these questions in your light blue books, please? And here's the answers. I've got 3/10, which is 30%, because that would be equal to 30 over 100. I've got 43%, which we know means 43 out of 100. And 5 over 2, if I convert that denominator into 100, I get 250%. The three values greater than a half are 65%, 0.76 and 2/3. Okay, when we talked about percentages, we said it was a special type of fraction. So 1% just means 1 part out of 100, or 1 out of 100. And we showed it on a grid, just like that. We shaded in 1 part out of 100. So if I did a test and I got one question out of 100 right, I would score 1% in that test. Not a particularly great score, but that would be my percentage. So Jamie got 5 out of 20 questions right in a test. What does 5 out of 20 mean? Well, if we've got 20 questions, as represented by my 20 squares, we know that Jamie has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them right. Or as a fraction, we know that Jamie has got 5 out of 20. We can convert that to a percentage by multiplying our top and bottom by 5 to give us something out of 100. So I've now got 25 out of 100, which is 25%, or as a decimal, if I divide that by 100, that's 0.25. Okay, Year 7, your turn. Jamie got 7 out of 20 questions right in a test. What does 7 out of 20 mean? Can you shade it into a diagram in your light blue books for me? Can you write it as a fraction and can you convert it to a percentage? Pause the video for a minute and have a go at that now. Okay, let's go through it. 7 out of 20 means that he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 questions correct, there they are. As a fraction, I can write that as 7 out of 20. And as a percentage, I multiply top and bottom by 5 to give me 35 out of 100, or 35%, which as a decimal, by dividing by 100, gives me 0.35. So how about now? Jamie's got 5 out of 8 questions right in a test. Can you shade that into a grid for me? And can you convert that into a fraction, a decimal and a percentage? Pause the video for a minute and have a go at that in your light blue books for me. Right, let's go through it. So he's got 5 out of 8. So here's my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions out of 8 that he's got right. As a fraction, I can write that as 5 out of 8. This time as a decimal, I can't convert that 8 directly into 100, so I need to do a bus stop division. 8 into 5 is 0, remainder 5. 8 into 50 is 6, remainder 2. 8 into 20 is 2, remainder 4. And how many 8s are there in 40 for me, Brooke? 5. Lovely. So as a decimal, it's 0.625. To convert from a decimal to a percentage, we need to multiply by 100. So he's scored 62.5%. Okay, Year 7, in your light blue books, can you pause the video for about 10 minutes and have a go at converting these into a fraction and then into a percentage for me? Pause the video and have a go at that now, please. And these are the answers. Please check your work and see how you did. And finally, our last lesson destination of today. Have a go at these 2 questions for me in your light blue books. Sorry, you've already done the first one, I think, so just have a go at the second one for me. What's his percentage score in each of those exams? And here are the answers. Please check your work and see how you did. The percentage score, he scored 33 out of 60 on the paper 1. I've then put that over 20 to give me 11 over 20 or 55 over 100. So he scored 55% in the first one and 75% in the second one. And that's the end of today's lesson, Year 7. Please head over to Google Classroom and complete today's exit ticket for me. Thanks very much for listening and have a lovely day.